Hey everybody, welcome to the show, or shall I say the big experiment. Thanks for joining us on what
Are we at Madison Square Garden, are we, Pete? I can hear a little bit of feedback as you speak, so, I mean, if anyone's been to a game, they'll be used to the echoes, but, yeah, it's not too disturbing at the moment.
Okay. Let's start with introductions. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know me. My name's Peter Stinsky, and I'm from New York. And we also have Ian Maverick with us. Ian, you want to say hi?
Hi, how you going? Peter, you look nothing like your picture that you use for your on the Skype and other things. The gentleman with the hat on.
Yeah, that's for my military day. No.
That's right. Good.
So this being a live... Go ahead.
I'm
here, but it's very, very dark here, so you won't be able to see me.
Oh, Peter Bartlett's joined us. Hey, Pete.
I am here. Hello.
There was some question about whether you'd be able to join us.
Well, I'm here, but like I said, it's dark.
It's dark in Colorado.
Okay.
All right, so this being a live recording, we're going to have some folks watching in the Hangout audience, and you guys can interact with us using the questions feature. So just start sending us your questions. We're going to be asking for questions at various points in the show. Later on, we're going to have a Stump the Trash Talker segment. So get your best TRS-80 questions ready, and we'll try to answer them. And
I've got a question for you, Pete.
Okay.
Yeah, Pete and Pete, I've got a question. What did you think of the black TRS-80 Model 3 this week?
the Darth Vader version.
Yeah, that one. Did you see it, Pete?
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a mistake, kind of a crying shame to do that to that computer, but it looked kind of neat until you started thinking about it a little bit, and how it would have been better to paint it. If you're going to paint it, at least paint it silver.
Yeah, exactly. Silver paint, it's easy to come by, but I have had a white Model 3 here once. They painted it gloss white, so depending on what part of the day that the sun was shining through the window, it would have some really interesting effects on your eyes, like not good ones.
Yeah, my Model 3, I took it to VCF Midwest last year in Chicago, and the consensus seemed to be that it had been painted. It's a very similar color to the original. I just always thought it was in really good condition because whoever painted it must have completely taken it apart and done it right before they put it back together. I'm still not convinced that it's painted, but a lot of people at the show seem to think it was. It's just too perfect.
Okay, well, it'll be one of the few if it is perfect.
Have you seen anyone come up with a exact formula replicating the Mercedes Silver?
The guy, Brian White, who was making a case for the Mize and Mies devices, he lives in New Jersey, I guess, has come up with something really, really close. I'm not sure what his formula is, but he could probably fill us in if we got to talk to him.
Yeah, that's right. He sent me one of his prototype Mize cases, and it does match. It's very close. You're right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he found the ancient formula or whether he just did a sort of a color match down at Home Depot, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you take a TRS-80 out into the sun, you can see a lot of like little flake in the paint, and I think that's the difficult part to replicate.
Yeah, well, they obviously got the recipe from RCA since, as we discussed on the show some time ago, they got those TVs for free in silver from, I guess it was RCA. So if you really wanted to dig for it, you'd have to find out what RCA originally used.
Right. So if any new viewers have joined the show, we'll be answering any of your questions. So use the questions and answer feature if you're in the Hangout. If you're just watching on YouTube, you can join the Hangout. The link is on the event page or the Facebook page for the show. And you can, start asking us questions if you have anything you want to ask us. While we're waiting for some questions, I just want to have a little state of the podcast, kind of a review of where the podcast is and maybe where we're going to go. So as most of you know, we started early this year. It was initiated by me because I thought there was a lot to talk about in the TRS-80 realm, and I saw that Coco had a podcast, and Atari had one, Apple had one, even Commodore had a podcast. So I reached out to a few of my TRS-80 buddies, and we started producing the show. And we recently released our 8th episode, and I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface of things to talk about and discuss. I don't know about you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, we never seem to have any trouble coming up with new topics, so I think we've got quite a long ways to go. I mean, there's so much software out there even to talk about, and we've only touched 2 or 3 different titles so far, so I think we've got plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the getting it started was probably the hardest bit. Now that it's sort of up and running and the making of the podcasts is fairly down pat. They're actually good, and there's no shortage of things to sort of discuss. It's very easy, in the early days to sort of say, well, it's an ancient black and white computer with no sound and not that large a fan base compared to the Apple or the Commodore or something. But you make these things and people will tune in and reinvigorate their interest in these machines.
Sure. We actually have a question from the original gamer, Stevie Stroh. Hey, Stevie. And he's asking if we can see the question. Well, Steve, yes, I can see the question, so you can ask a real question now.
What's the original game that Stevie Stroh played? That's my question.
Oh, you've never seen his YouTube videos?
No.
I lived in a sheltered existence.
Well, he's been playing a lot of Coco games online and recording them. And he was really big in Coco scene for a while. I don't think he's done any TRS-80 games yet, as of yet.
Okay. So it's not in the same sort of vein as the that crazy video game guy who does the YouTube videos of Atari games and Nintendo games and explains how poxy they are.
No, I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
Okay. I'll send you a link to one later.
So getting back to the state of the podcast, our first episode just had its 1,000th download. So while it's not a huge amount in the big scheme of podcasting, I'm really surprised by the number of listeners we have for such a specific topic,
I'm pretty happy with that number, actually, because occasionally I get asked realistically how many TRS-80 enthusiasts are there actually out there. And while I haven't really got an exact number, because how do you do a census on this sort of thing, but I always pull the number 500 out of thin air. So if there's that many people listening, then there's probably at least that many who own machines are interested in messing around with them or listening to some guys talk about them.
Yeah, well, I wasn't on the first podcast, so I don't give a damn.
You still have the World Record Floppy Days podcast, which is much more than 1,000, I think Randy said the last time. So anyway.
Yeah.
No explanation for that still.
Trying to join the Hangout. His email address there. Do you want to try and flick one through, Pete?
Yeah. Let's. Stevie's wants to join the show here. Hold on a second. Again, guys, all these tools are new to us, so this is kind of just an experiment here. So please bear with us.
We managed to get my connection sorted out in under 10 minutes, which was, pretty neat, I thought. So what's the next
it's
show
not
up, Pete?
Pardon?
What's the next show?
the next the next
VCF.
next
Yeah.
VCF. The only one I'm planning on going to is VCF Midwest next month in Chicago. It's September 10th and 11th at the Holiday Inn Elk Grove in Elk Grove, Illinois, which is real close to O'Hare Airport.
Okay.
It's
Pretty good time of year for that.
Yeah, it is. It was my first VCF ever. I went last year, and it's so far still my first VCF. I had a great time. There's a lot of Commodore stuff there because it's a combined event with the Emergency Chicago Color Computer Festival or Commodore Convention, or so. It's a big Commodore event, and it's combined with the everything else vintage computer. So there's a lot of different stuff. About half the room is dedicated to Commodore C64s and 128s and what have you, and the rest there's some really neat old stuff, including the occasional TRS-80.
Well, we can address that now.
So I didn't realize how much work it was to put on a decent podcast. You know, from figuring out content, creating segments, organizing it all, scheduling people to get on the show, trying to get interviews, editing the show. It takes a lot of time to put on, something of quality.
Yeah, but you're well suited to it because you're idle rich.
What? Idle all the time.
Idle rich, and they have all the time in the world to do this stuff.
Pete's the one Pete Bartlett's the one that's retired, right, Pete?
Yeah, let's not go there.
Okay.
What, you don't want to be retired, or your retirement isn't all that it's cracked up to be?
It's not all it's cracked up to be, but I've been retired for so long that I don't really think I could go back to chip design if I wanted to at this point.
Yeah. People at my workplace say, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to retire early, I want to retire young and all this sort of thing. And I sort of say, well, the job that I do at my workplace, I want to stay there as long as possible. And, they're talking about lifting the retirement age here in Australia to 70. So I said, I don't mind. That sounds fine. That sounds fine by me. And it's definitely true. If you've got a job that you like, then working till 70 is not a problem. If you've got a job you don't particularly like, then I think that early retirement or hanging on in the workforce becomes really annoying.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, I got an email from Brian White saying he was having problems. Can't seem to join and watch anything, so I sent him a link to join the Hangout, so he might be joining us as well. Let's see.
Oh, good. Maybe he can tell you about the Mercedes Silver concoction.
I'd love to hear about that. Yeah.
Oh, he's the creator of the Mize box, isn't he?
Yeah, if it's the same Brian White, which I suspect it is.
He probably is.
The prototype one he created that he gave to me was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think he had some before that weren't painted at all. They were sort of, what's the clear material called? I forget. Some sort of clear polycarbonate stuff. That also looked kind of neat because you can see the board right through the box. But still, for my money, you gotta have the black and silver.
Yeah.
So guys, I thought since broadcasting video and I'm in my workshop that I would show off a few of the machines I have here in the workshop, kind of talk about my favorite TRS-80 line, the Model 2 line. I don't know if you guys be interested in hearing about that.
Is this the Model 2 identification part of the discussion?
That's what this is, yes.
That's what this is? Yeah, okay. I thought it was good because it's pretty easy to identify a Model 2. It's got boot error RN on the screen. That's pretty much how I can tell.
I think the 8-inch disk drives are a pretty big giveaway too, I think.
Let's see how this works. So
Mine was more of a
I'm going to join my
tongue-in-cheek answer, but okay.
Let's see how this works. In a second.
Sounds like from all the email traffic I'm seeing, a lot of people are having a hard time seeing or hearing any of this.
Steve Stowe's here. Steve, can you hear us?
Yeah, I just saw the email. Thanks, guys.
Hey, how you going?
Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you
Yeah.
okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, this is great. This is great.
Okay. There was some actually perfect timing that you joined us, because we were having a question that that possibly the listeners were not hearing or getting good video footage prior to joining this. How did it look and sound from your end, Steve?
It sounds good. You are probably the most pixelated, probably just because of the geography, but the sound is fine. Your video is a little grainy, Ian, but everybody else is pretty clear.
Yeah, I was saying to Pete before we went on air that last night I dug out my 10-year-old Microsoft VX1000 webcam, which was probably you know, top of the line 10 years ago, but by today's standards it's pretty crappy and grainy. So
Yeah.
but, you know, it is what it is. It does work, but yeah, that'll be why this image is a little bit grainy. But well, we're talking about grainy old computers, aren't we? So, you know, it kind of fits the narrative pretty well.
Well, I thought you were pixelated in real life, Ian.
Oh, look at this beast. I just saw a glimpse of the beast there for a second. The 2000.
Right. So I was going to talk about the Model 2 line a little bit and give you guys a little tour of a couple of machines, because I know a lot of our listeners are not that familiar with the Model 2 line, and it's my favorite computer just because it's such a pain in the ass to work with.
Yeah, you need a lot of those beers next to it to get through any session working with them.
Yes, you do.
For sure.
Stella. So let's talk about the Model 2 just a little bit. And Ian and Pete, if you want to monitor for questions while I'm doing this, because I'm kind of occupied here, just interrupt me anytime.
Yeah. You want a GoPro or something?
All right, so this is the Model 2, TRS-80 Model 2. Was introduced a few years after the Model 1. It was the first in the Tandy's business line of computers. You can see it's a fairly big machine. It had an 8-inch floppy drive. That's a full-size Shugart 8-inch floppy drive. It had a detachable keyboard, separate keyboard, detached with a cable. Had a 12-inch black and white CRT. And your power and your reset switches. Interesting little story on these switches is this is a later model,
Yeah,
Model
go
2.
and hit it.
What's that?
Go and hit that power switch.
It's not plugged in. You can see how short these switches are, right? And there's a reason for that, because I have an older Model 2 over here. I'll show you really quick. And you see those switches?
I think I can see the problem.
You can imagine how many times people accidentally just kind of did that in the middle of the day. The reset switch as well. So that was a design flaw that they quickly rectified in later models.
What were people wondering what this switch does and just switching it off in the middle of the day?
You know, as you're just kind of moving your beer around, and it just kind of hits the switch there. Maybe your coffee.
It's a bit like in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they have a button in the spaceship that's just marked "Don't press this button," and everyone presses it, and then the thing says, "We told you not to press this button." So
that's right. Taking a look at the back of the machine, got some ports back here. There's a 50-pin disk connector. That's for connecting the external disk drive bay. Now, if you have an early Model 2 and you're not using the disk bay, you need to make sure you plug in one of these. That's the disk terminator. It just kind of plugs in here. Because if you run an early Model 2 without one of these, and And without a disk bay connected, you're going to screw up any floppy drives you put in your main floppy there.
Was that some form of SCSI, or is it just general kind of grounding or termination that needed to take place there?
What inside this terminator, I'm not exactly sure what the schematics are in that terminator. I've never investigated it, but it's doing some sort of.
It will be specialized. I can tell you, it will be specialized. It'll be simple. It'll just be a bunch of resistors or a couple of resistor networks or something. But yeah, it's a 50-pin bus. It's not SCSI or even related to SCSI.
No, it's a standard Shugart 8-inch floppy bus. Then we had a 32-pin parallel port for the printers. We had 2 serial ports. We had A and a B. The A port was capable of doing synchronous I/O. So there was a modification that allowed your Model 2 to connect to IBM mainframes by using that mechanism. And the B port would only do asynchronous. And then you have a disk fuse and some AC power. And we can take a look at the inside. Again, you got the big 8-inch floppy drive over here. It's a heavy beast. It's all metal, solid. And we have the core of the computer here, which is a 8-slot bus system, essentially, an 80-way bus. And the average typical Model 2 you'll find out there came with 4 cards. This is the CPU card. It has the Z80 CPU, the DMA controller, the CTC chip, and the serial I/O interface. And then we had a floppy controller. This is a later model floppy controller. Then we had the memory. This is a 64K board, so you can either get a 64K or 32K. 32K was pretty rare. Most people just opted for the 64K out of the box. And then we had the printer and video card. So this connects to the video system. It has the video chip, and it also has a PIO chip for the parallel I/O interface for the printer. And we have the CRT. This is an art.
Hey, Pete.
What's that?
Hey, Pete, before you move on to the CRT, so if someone wanted to put a logic probe on one of those cards while it's running, would they just need very, very thin fingers?
Yeah. You would, or you would need a test extender, an extender board, which I just happen to have one over here. I can show you what it looks like.
Hey, if I could interrupt real quick, is it okay can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is it okay to post a link to this Hangout in the YouTube chat? I've got a few people telling me they're watching, but they'd also like to join the call. I don't know if you wanted to keep the call somewhat close and tight or not, or if you mind if a few people join. Mike Rowan would like to join. I think Nick Marentis might as well.
If they go to the Facebook page for the TRS-80 Trash Talk Facebook page, there's a link there. They should be able to follow.
Yeah, well, I also went to that link, and what we're seeing is basically a black screen that says the video has been disabled. So the Hangout link only allows you to post questions, but it doesn't allow somebody to join the Hangout if they wanted to ask you a verbal question.
Boy.
It's possible
Okay.
it disables it while it's recording.
Yeah, so, and again, I don't know if that was by design or not, and I'm not trying to, turn this into a public freak show, but I just figured I would ask for your permission if I gave this link that you gave me to a couple people who wanted to, chime in with a verbal question for you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I will do that. I'll post it in the.
You know what? I ran into that problem with my testing, and I solved it, and now I can't remember what I did to solve it. There was some Google setting. Oh boy. If I remember, I'll remember for next time. But sorry, guys.
Okay, I'll help you out.
Okay. Yeah, you've done this a few times before. I was going to show you that extender. Where is that thing? What do I do with it? Okay. Where did I put it? Oh, right here. No, that's the bag. Here it is.
Just to the right. To the right. There it is.
So this kind of plugs in like this into one of the slots, and then you plug up this way. And then you plug in the card up top here, and then the card is sticking out, and you can test to your heart's content. And I just got that from Lamar Owen. I did him a one-for-one trade for a couple of the Hans boards for that. So he doesn't have a Model 2, he has a Model 12, so it was a good trade for both of us. So you'll see we also have a RCA black and white monitor and analog video board there. And interesting thing is that this is the same exact board that you'll find in the Model 3. So it's an easy swap between the two. The RCA video subsystem was introduced near the end of the Model 2 run. The earlier models have a Motorola system, which is not compatible with the Model 3. And then we have the power supply. This is a power supply. This is an A11081. So this is an upgraded power supply. If you have the earlier power supply is an A11080, and there was a discussion about this on the VCF forums just recently, where if you have the older power supply, you're not really going to be able to add any additional cards into the system because that power supply is marginal at best, and you'll just run into problems. So if you want to run additional cards in your Model 2, you need to have the upgraded power supply like you see here.
What were they thinking?
And
Michael Rowan here.
a few of the things of interest. See how flimsy that plastic is? You know, not the greatest construction. That's why these things are not the greatest to ship unless they're packed extremely well, because they will get smashed and they will crack. And so you have to be really careful with that. Next up was the Model 16. Model 16 was introduced in 1982, and then they phased out the Model 2 soon after that. You can see it's very similar, except it's white. With following the tradition of all the Tandy machines at the time, they all moved to white. It's the same exact case mold, except it's now in white. And
should have been
this
white
one,
in the first place.
Yeah. The Model 16 did ship with a green screen, which is much nicer than that black and white screen. And it's shipped with the two of the thin line floppy drives. So now you can have two floppy drives in your computer itself. And they're double-sided drives, so they hold a lot more. The only problem is they are much less reliable than the old Shugart drives. Finding a working one today, consider yourself lucky. I have quite a few that don't work. I only have a few that do work, so they're very temperamental. Just taking a look at the inside of the Model 16. Again, similar architecture as the Model 2, except you notice this one has a full card cage. So this is a fully loaded Model 16. Again, it's got the CPU board, the Z80 CPU board. It's got the floppy controller. It's got the memory. This is a hard drive controller. So you can see down here we have a hard drive connector. And on the Model 16, you could use the 12 meg or the 5 meg Tandy hard drives. Then we have the video board is over here. And you'll notice this interesting board here with the cables leading to the video board. That's the high resolution board. So that was an option to give you 640 by 240 monochrome graphics. And then finally, we have the real heart of the system here. This is the Motorola 68000 subsystem. This is the CPU board, and this is a 128K memory board. So Model 16, when it's fully packed like this, is a pretty interesting and impressive piece of electrical engineering. To think that all these boards and all these circuits and everything has to work just right. And when everything's working well, it's very satisfying to operate one of these. And interesting thing about this architecture is that the 68000 system uses the Z80 system for all of its I/O. So 68000 will use the Z80 system for interacting with the floppy drives, with the printer, and all of its I/O. And the way the systems usually work, whether it's Xenix or Tristos 16 or CPM 68K, there's usually a Z80 bootloader program. So the system boots up as Z80, and then it'll load up the 68K operating system on top of it. And then we have the nice green Motorola monitor with a more advanced video board, and then one of the actually the latest power supply that you can get in Model 2, the A11082. So that's more than enough juice there to power this complete system here. Any questions on the Model 16?
Is that the same power supply they used in the 16B and 6000?
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of that, so after the Model 16, we had the Model 12. I have a Model 12 over here. This came in, now this was the larger case. They introduced the larger case, the same thin line floppy drives, the same green screen. They changed the power and the reset button. The reset button is here, the power button is down here. I can show you what the case looks like. There's a 16B over here that doesn't work, but the 16B and the 12 had the same case. It's a larger case from the 16, and it's a little more fragile, and it's all in one piece. So these are even more dangerous to ship than the Model 2 or the Model 16. So I have one here without the case. This is a 6000 HD. And there's a reason this one doesn't have a case is because a while ago I had it shipped to me and the case basically shattered. So, but it makes a good example machine to show off. So you can see here, here's the power supply. What's that?
Have you powered that one up?
This one I don't think I've ever powered it up. No. I'll probably go through this before I actually power it up.
I was going to say, if you want to live on the wild side, there's no time like the present.
Yeah, I'll think about it. This is the power supply, the main power supply. Now that you can see they laid flat on top of this cage, and in this cage is the main board. I can show you an example of that later. That's the hard drive power supply. This is a 6000 HD, which has a built-in 15 megabyte hard drive. And you can see it in there. It's a full height, 5.25 inch 15 megabyte hard drive. So it's pretty noisy and pretty exciting to work with. I'll show you that main board. I have an example of one over here. This is that main board that you can see that's under the power supply. Basically what they did here was they consolidated the CPU card and the memory card. Those three cards now have functionalities consolidated on this one main board. So it does make things more reliable. Problem is, trying to work on it, you basically have to take the machine fully apart. You have to take off the card cage, you have to take off the power supply, you have to unhook all the wires. It's a real pain in the ass to work on. And then the card cage, so they moved the card cage to the back and they changed the orientation. All of the cards that work in the Model 2, except of course for the CPU and the floppy and the memory card, well, memory cards will actually work in here. But the CPU and the floppy cards, you don't want to work in here. But you can see, so we have 7 bays here, and by incorporating the functionality that they did on the main board, you can actually add additional accessories to this machine. So the 16B and the 6000 are very similar in their design. They both have this sort of card cage. Here we have the 68000 CPU. We have two 68000 memory cards. So this machine has 1 megabyte of RAM. These are two 512K boards. That was the max you could have in the 6000 was 1 megabyte on the 68000. Here's the video card. It's basically the same video card that was used in the Model 2. This is a 3-port serial board. So of course, when we have the Motorola 68000 system, Tandy introduced Xenix, which is a multi-user operating system, so you can connect multiple terminals to this machine. So with these 3 ports and with the 2 built-in serial ports, you can have up to 5 terminals connected to this machine on Unix. This board here is a Bernoulli board, so it allows you to attach a Bernoulli tape drive. It's a very early form of a SCSI interface, I believe. I actually have a video on YouTube of a 6000 HD running the Bernoulli tape drive if you want to take a look at that. And finally, this card at the bottom is the late Type 4 hard drive controller. So they consolidated the adapter and the controller onto one board, and it allows you to plug an MFM drive directly right into this board. It supports up to 2 MFM drives, the one internal, and you can have one external MFM drive on this machine. So if you have any questions, just ask. That's my little tour of the Tandy Model 2 line.
That was quite impressive. Thanks for sharing.
Sure, you're welcome.
Hi, Pete. This is Mike. I'm just curious what the primary kind of applications would run on this. I knew there weren't lots and lots of applications for these. Were they mostly, in-house developed, or?
Yeah, they were, pretty much all business focused. The general ledgers, the payrolls, a lot of database type work, anything used to run a small to medium sized business. A lot of, tax preparation type software. There was software for specific niches of industry, like there were medical billing systems released. Tandy released all of these. Tandy had really tight control over the software that was released for the whole Model 2 line, and they did that with intent because they wanted to sell the software. And one of the ways they did that was trying to obfuscate and not advertise the way the machine worked internally as much as possible. People did hack it, but it wasn't. They didn't make it easy. Let's put it that way.
Well, was it primarily
machines? They were very good database management machines. Profile, I think, was the database program. Might have been called Profile 16 on these machines, and that I believe was the sort of the start of a lot of the DVM development that eventually ended up with what we use today, like SQL and things like that. So it wasn't. It was a very sophisticated data management system, particularly when coupled with the hard drive and the 68,000. In its price range at the time, there's not much stuff this side of a mini computer that could compete with it.
I still use File Pro myself today for work.
Yeah, that's right. It was Profile on the TRS-80, and then the company renamed it File Pro in DOS World, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So the 16B, this machine here, was actually for I think a year or two the most popular by volume Unix-based workstation. If you consider Xenix Unix, which it pretty much is, for a couple of years there. So yeah, they were pretty serious machines.
Hey, Peter.
Yep.
It's Neil here, Neil Blanchard from the Coco Crew podcast. Really enjoying this episode here, the show and tell. That's great. I just had a question for you. When you were showing the Model 2s, I missed the one part you mentioned on the white case. You said the floppy drives were a different brand. They weren't that reliable.
Yes.
Are those are 8-inch drives as well, right?
They are 8-inch. It's a TM 848s.
Yeah.
So they're not Sugar drives.
Okay, so it's a different brand.
It's a different brand. A lot of people, judge them as very inferior in quality as far as their build. They have a few advantages over the Sugar. Besides, I mentioned they're double-sided, so they hold more than twice as much data. They also don't run all the time, so they have the ability with the function of the operating system to turn off. On the Model 2, when you run a Model 2, that floppy drive spins all the time while the machine is on.
So as soon as you apply power to it, the motors run?
The motor just runs.
Oh, wow.
Continuously. Yeah.
Huh.
So you had to have deep pockets back in the day to run a Model 2 because you needed to do nightly backups of your work, and with disks running 7, 8, 9 hours a day, you wear your disks out in a month or 6 weeks or something. So Tandy really they probably love that idea. They get to sell a box of disks to every company that bought a Model 2 every month for the usable life of the computer. Yeah. I'll just talk a bit about the thin line drives they have on the Model 16 and subsequently. They're a Tandon drive, which makes them Tandon also made the drives that were in the IBM PC and in the Model 3 and 4. It's obvious when you look at this one here that it's actually a 5 1/4 inch drive that's just been upsized to 8-inch because it uses almost the exact same mechanisms of the not compatible mechanisms, but compatible in concept of the 4P drives, which weren't particularly reliable as well at the time. They improved them for the Tandy 6000. They became the TM 848E, which has a direct drive motor instead of a belt drive motor, and that's how you tell the difference between them. But they are, see this one here that he's just flipped over, that's got a belt drive on it.
Right.
They, like all tandem drives, I've seen tandem drives that have been treated badly and they'll run fine, and I've also seen tandem drives that have been clearly not used or been well looked after their whole life, in a temperature controlled environment or whatever, and will just not work properly. So it's I think the QC at Tandon was a little bit hit and miss, and they probably designed them around a 5-year usable life. So yeah, like Pete said, finding one now, 30 years down the track that works well is you got to buy a fair few of them. That's for sure.
Okay. I've always found those 8-inch drives. I've always had a thing for them. I'm kind of a floppy guy myself on the Coco, and those 8-inch drives, they get me all the time.
They're impressive to look at, but in actual usage, I don't think they're any faster than a 5 1/4, and definitely by the time they'd gotten around to the double-sided, double density or high density disk drives, they were starting to hold more than these old 8-inch drives. But definitely when you show a young person who's starting out in computing one of the old floppy disks from this, they're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good segue to if you want to use a Model 2 today, you really don't want to be using the floppies. First of all, the 8-inch floppies are hard to find, and they're going to be of dubious quality at this age in their life. So what you can do is what I've done in this Model 2 is hook up a floppy emulator, HXC. Cool. It's pretty common. Everybody knows about the HXC, right? It's an SD card-based floppy emulator. So you just dump your Model 2 images onto the SD card, and you just use a 50 to 40 pin adapter, and you can run your floppies. So this is LS-DOS booting on the Model 2.
Without that, you got a working keyboard as well.
And some of you may be surprised that LS-DOS runs on the Model 2, but it does. It's practically the same LS-DOS that runs on the Model 4. A lot of the software that runs on the Model 4 will run on the Model 2 under this operating system. I haven't found anything that doesn't work yet, but I know there are a few titles that don't. This machine also has an interesting upgrade. It has a solid-state hard drive.
Oh, nice.
So some of you may be familiar with this. This is the low-tech IDE adapter that is used on some of the other TRS-80s. And our good friend Hans Ritfield created a modification to it and a little card that plugs into the TRS-80 Model 2 bus. And he modified a few drivers, and now it works as an LS-DOS hard drive on a Model 2. So if I just start through, you can see the hard drive partitions.
It's also a lot quieter.
I bet.
If any of you have ever used, because people agree with me here, if you've ever used a Model 2 with a hard drive connected, there are fans and disk drives and hard drives running and everything. It's actually hard to concentrate at times. It's that loud. The Model 16 and Model 2 hard disk system. It's like an air conditioning system running at your fingertip.
But you
Yeah.
didn't hear any of that next to the printer.
Yeah.
And this machine actually has a high-res board in it. So let me give you a quick high-res demo.
What is making that beeping noise when it accesses the hard drive emulator? Is it got a speaker on it just so you don't feel like it's too quiet or something?
That's
It's
actually
cricket.
the floppy emulator. Yeah, you can turn that off, but I like leaving it on. It lets me know that it's working.
Well, it's good to know you have
Also
this.
cricket.
The high-res board, is that the same resolution as what's on the 4?
Yes, it is.
But it's overlaid on the original text, so you can see up in the top left-hand corner there that it still retains the text screen. And you could, Pete, if you wanted, could go and run a database report with Bones's face on the screen there, and the computer will happily do that. So it's like an early version of wallpaper.
Yeah, that's the big difference between the two. Is the text is visible in Model 2. The
Yeah,
the architecture of the
They hadn't
high-res
worked out the
boards,
finer points of high resolution at that time.
the boards are actually very similar architecturally. You program them the same. You write to the same ports to write to them. So I believe the Model 2 board came out first, and then they based the Model 3 board on the Model 2 board, and then the Model 4 board on the Model 3 board, of course. All right. I think that's enough for my Model 2s.
That's a neat system, that one. I like the one there.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing
that's
that. I've never seen a Model 2 up running like that before. That was cool.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I've never seen a low-tech and a hands working either. I know I produce and sell the hands boards, but I actually don't have a system set up.
Hey, isn't Peter Satinsky? Aren't you who has my Mize enclosure? Where's that sucker?
Yeah, that's me. That's up in my office upstairs.
All right.
I could run up there if you want me to show
No,
you.
it's okay.
That's where he keeps the good stuff.
Maybe you'll
I
be
didn't
out when
make
he
it
goes
to
to
that.
grab another Stella.
You were going to bring it to VCF East, and I didn't make it to it. Like I'm only like I have no excuse. I'm 20 minutes away. I could have totally hopped over there.
Yeah, it was there. Speaking of that, we were talking before about how did you match the silver paint? What did you use?
I have links to it. In the links where I have the directions and the pictures, actually, by now I have a 3D print files to print out the case, a nicer version of it. And and I have the reference of the exact thing. I found it at an auto parts store. It's not an exact match. It's just pretty close. I mean, because you've seen it now. That's it. I just tried a few things. Everything I could find that I could put my hands on, up close in person. So it's I don't remember what it's bumper coating. I don't remember the exact model and name, but where in with the other directions for the 3D printed case and the pictures, there is the link to that exact paint.
Is it
Okay,
Rust-Oleum?
It's not. I don't remember if it's Rust-Oleum or Krylon. It's bumper coating.
Which is my favourite name. Which is my favourite name of paint, actually, Rust-Oleum. I don't know who came up with that, but I think they must have had a twisted sense of humour. Put it on rusty cars.
Well, it's pretty close because I had a number of people come up to me at VCF East and ask me if that was an original accessory. So I think it's good enough.
It's pretty close. It's the closest thing I was able to find.
Yeah.
I would still love the original paint. I mean, it's got to be out there somewhere.
We could use that color on the Coco ones, the originals.
Yeah, what do you Coco guys repaint your computers with?
Oh, we don't. They stay perfect all the time.
Do they?
Actually, I've never painted one. I've had good luck cleaning them up pretty well. And then, are you talking about the Coco ones or the?
Yeah, the Coco ones, the first ones that where you rest your wrists on the front, it wears through, and then there's black plastic underneath. That was
The silver ones.
yeah.
Yeah, I've never painted any of mine.
That's a badge of honor. We would never take that away from a Coco that serves so well.
Well said.
I do have one other interesting thing down here I could show you. This is my 8-inch and 5 1/4 imaging setup to create floppy disks or create images from floppy disks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mess of cables and connectors and adapters, and that's the D-bit that adapter that lets you run an 8-inch floppy drive on a PC.
Did it take you long to put that thing together? Because it looks like something Frankenstein has been working on.
Yeah, it took a while to get everything working. It definitely did. But there's enough information online to anybody could do it. I have a cat weasel in here. There's a cat weasel card for creating Model 1 disks.
I have the same sort of setup for Coco over here with a cat weasel.
Okay.
An old PC.
So if anybody out there has any old 8-inch media that they want to put into the Model 2 archive, send it my way, and I'll image it and share it with the world.
That's awesome.
What's some of the things you're looking for that are missing from your collection that you knew you'd like to have?
Definitely a lot of Xenix software. I don't have a lot of the Xenix stuff. Yeah, the one big thing I'm looking for is the first early Xenix software development kit. Yeah, that one's hard to find.
Is it for like assembly language development or?
No, for Xenix it's going to be mostly C. It's C oriented, so it's all the C development tools. But there's an assembler as well. But once you get to that level of the 16-bit operating system,
yeah.
a lot of the applications are written in C, higher level language.
Okay. Cool. Where's your Tris box?
I have it on this machine here. I can show it to you if you want. This is TRS-box serial on Model 4 using serial IP converter. So that's connected via an Ethernet cable to my switch there, which is connected to my broadband router. And I can just bring it up here. 12. And this machine doesn't even have any sort of a hard drive or emulator. It just has floppies. So you can even use TRS-box only if you have floppies. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is going to work. May not be configured properly.
Somebody needs to invent a cell phone neck mount or head mount or something so you can type at the same time as you do this.
That's why I asked before if he had a GoPro because he could kind of stick it on his head and.
No, it's not working in this machine. Sorry, I'd have to go upstairs to show you.
Sorry for putting you on the spot like that.
What about like a selfie stick and some duct tape? That might get the job done.
Or just super glue it to my head.
Just some Tarzan's grip and stick it to your head.
All right,
That's it.
enough of my shop for now.
Yeah.
Let's, you guys want to play a little Stump the Trash Talkers? Fire away.
What are we looking at on the screen at the moment? I think you got to flick it back to your webcam there. While people are working on their and there he is, he's back. Are working on their Stump the Trash Team. Questions. I'll tell you a couple of things I'm working on. Just grab the other one. All right. Who's that? Hello there. Who's that on the screen?
It's Dusty.
Hey, Dusty. How you
How you
going,
doing, Matt?
Not bad.
Got through it fast.
What's it like? What's it like in Wales?
No, mate, I'm the other side of the country.
Oh, that's right. I mix you and Baz up. Yeah.
Yeah. Baz is in Wales.
Yeah, that's right. So we got a truly international podcast now. We've got the United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States.
In Canada.
You're from Canada and Canada. Put your hand up if you're from Canada.
Yeah, we got Canada here.
Got Canada as well.
Represent.
Yeah, represent. All right.
Dusty, what time is it?
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
3
You
o'clock.
set an alarm clock or just suffer from insomnia?
That's dedication.
That's yeah. Have you had your tea? Have you had your
Yes.
morning English breakfast tea?
Cup of coffee.
Ah, yes. Breakfast of champions. I got mine here as well. It's a reasonable time here at least. It's just on midday here on Sunday. So yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh, yeah.
But there's also even
A few people asked me about these things. I'm going to hold one up. Does anyone know what this is?
You're way too pixelated to tell.
If you hold it still,
Is that,
if you hold it very still for a second, it might clear up.
Well, I think that's a printed circuit board with some chips on it.
very good. All right. Yeah, it's a Model 3 high resolution board for the graphics solution.
That was my 14th guess.
Yeah, exactly. I know. People have been wondering when I'm going to hurry up and market these things, but yeah, I've been busy with other things mainly. You know what it's like. So what this one is, you can just see it. It's got 6. This one has 6 memory chips. So that's a Pascal-made what do you call it? Reproduction of the original GX 3.2 board. So the one I'm planning on marketing is much smaller and just has the one memory chip. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it still pixelated to the point of not being discernible?
Oh, we can definitely tell it's much smaller and only see one large IC.
Yeah. The fun bit with these things is, well, they have all these. Where are they? All these bloody test hooks which need to be connected around the place. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus another wire, plus this guy, a header. So that's what's held me back in producing that one. It does work. It's not like any of my other high-res boards which just plug in, and a couple of a one wire goes to a point on the motherboard. These are a lot more complex, so it's like if I do release these things, I'm wondering how many people are gonna struggle to install it. So yeah, Model 3 high resolution board. Thanks to John Benson for his help. PT.
Well, a lot of those mods, that was pretty par for the course at the time, wasn't it? It's just unusual now.
Yeah, it's yeah, a lot of the companies at that time, particularly for boards like that, and the Model 1 high resolution board in particular, used to offer services where you would ship them their computer and they'd make and test the modification for you and you'd send it back for a certain fee. And when you're considering, modifications that require cutting traces on board and soldering and stuff, you kind of need someone who offers that service. It was only once the Tandy high resolution board and the graphics solution 4.2 and 5.1 came along that really anyone, even a school kid could probably open and install the thing fairly easily. So the only thing holding back the sale of the introduction of these ones is whether I can sort of get it into a video form, the installation of it in a manner that I think most people. You've got to remember, back in the sort of the 80s as well, a lot of high school and college students at the time were sort of messing around with electronics and soldering irons and stuff, so they could easily perform that sort of modification, or know someone who would be able to do it.
They could read a direction and know what it meant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is a great opportunity for us to come up with new ideas for Ian to implement. So, what other accessories do we want him to build? I want him to build. Didn't they make a x86 adapter for the Model 3 so you could run Microsoft DOS on the Model 3?
Like the worst idea in history, but anyway, they made a box called a Micro Merlin, which was basically a DOS computer, 8088 based computer that plugged in and used the Model 3 and Model 4 keyboard and video. But considering that most DOS software is color and graphics based, there was not a lot that could run with it. I'd still like to find one of those. I think that'd be interesting, but I can't say they'd sold that many of them. Oh, and I've got something else here I've been working on. There it goes. There it is. Anyone recognise that? Is it too close to the camera or too far away?
Well, I see two 40-pin sights, I think.
Yeah.
Double density card?
Yeah, double density card. It's little, isn't it? It uses a couple of GAL chips, to take away the majority of the other logic and timing circuits that are in the PERCOM adapter. So this one is much smaller and much quicker and easier for me to make. So I'm hoping this one will gain some traction. I should finish it this week sometime. I noticed that my parts bin has all but been depleted of spare parts when it comes to building threads and high resolution boards lately.
That's great.
Yeah, it's all right.
What about those color video adapters to the Model 1? There are a few of those.
I think, I think they're interesting. I don't know anyone with one, and when I decide to make something, because obviously I have to, and Pete Bartlett will agree here with me, I'm sure, that you've got to decide whether the cost of buying minimum number of circuit boards, and then all tooling up with all the components needed to assemble them can actually justify the number of them that you can sell in the short term to cover that tooling up and circuit board cost. That's really what it comes down to. Would you say that, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I designed a clone of the TMS9918A color graphics chip. It's got to be 8 years old now. It's an FPGA and it works great, but I have no actual use for it, and I don't think anybody would buy it if I produced it because there's no software. And you might as well just go get yourself a Coco or something that has equal color capabilities and is a lot more original and interesting.
Yeah. So even the high resolution boards for the Model 4 and 4P that I sell are sort of in that grey area, in that they're easy enough to make and build, but really is there enough software to sort of guarantee that there's enough interest in the things for people?
Yeah. Nobody's gonna write new color software, high resolution color software for a TRS-80 Model 1. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Whereas once I made once the high res boards for the Model 3 and 4 became around, we got things like Pete's pixel converter. What do you call your pixel converter, Peter?
Model 3 high resolution image generator, something like that.
Yeah, that's too long worded. We'll call it the Satinsky graphic generator. How's that sound?
But Pete, nobody thought they'd build a Wikipedia client for the TRS-80 either. So.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's a good trade-off. I mean, I could be building them within a month, but there's just no. I don't think there's really a market.
What about
and that's the thing.
What about your expansion interface replacement?
The Eternal Prototype. Yeah, I've had this thing sitting on my desk for, it's got to be close to 8 years now. It was sort of originally supposed to be a companion for the Mize, basically a replacement for the Model 1 expansion interface for people who couldn't get one at a reasonable price and maybe wanted some extra capabilities. And like I said, it's just a prototype now. The one thing that sort of held me back was, well, first let me tell you what it's got. It's got 32K of SRAM, expandable to 128K, although if it ever turns into a product, it'll probably be only 32K because I kind of chose a couple random port bits for bank select because there's no real software out there that does any sort of bank switching 128K stuff, and maybe people would write new software for that, maybe they wouldn't, but it'll probably sell with just 32K and maybe have a bigger RAM chip site if somebody wanted to put 128K on it. It's got a real floppy controller built in, single density / double density. It's got RS-232, which is compatible with the Model 1 original RS-232, except that it's also got a receive buffer of 64 bytes, so you don't have to continually poll as fast as you can for incoming RS-232 bytes, or else drop one on the floor. So that eases the software requirements a little bit. It's got a single unidirectional printer port that's compatible again with the original expansion interface. And what's been holding the project up is when I first decided to do something like this a long time ago, I promised something I called SD floppies. And I didn't really know what that was going to be, and it sounded like a really good idea for people that couldn't afford the real floppy drives or couldn't find ones that worked real well. And so for the longest time, I had an SD interface in the FPGA on this thing, and I could read and write SD. That was no problem. But if I put the effort into implementing a floppy controller and making an interface to SD, well, for one thing, that would have been TRS-80 native file system, so you wouldn't be able to pull out the SD card and put it in your Model 1 or put it in your PC card reader and move files back and forth that way. So really the only method of file transfer that this thing would give people who didn't have, say, a Mize and Ethernet would be something like Y modem over the RS-232, which is kind of painful and archaic. So about a month ago now, I decided to sort of change direction and decided to make the SD a fat file system with, right now it's using DMK files, one for each virtual floppy drive, and it can mount those and read and write them fine. I added a small PIC processor, and so that's working pretty well right now. It may eventually end up turning into a product, and it may not. And right now I'm going through some of the throes of, how is this thing really useful? What utilities am I going to provide so that you can say, unmount certain DMK files from the TRS-80, mount other ones, tell it which ones, what DOS you want to boot, and things like that. But there's no real difficulty standing in the way of finishing this thing up now, other than spending some time writing software and possibly implementing JV3 in addition to DMK, which is the main problem right now is that I've got to fit all this within the code space of this PIC processor. And right now with what I've got, just reading and writing the DMK files, it's somewhere in excess of 50% of the code space is already used, and I don't even have a bootloader in there yet. So it's going to be close. But maybe this sort of turning the corner and deciding to do it that way, actually using a fat file system that you can read and write from your PC will finally get me to turn the corner and turn this into a real product. So not to be too long-winded about it, that's what that is.
No one wants to bury the project. I make too much out of expansion interfaces. I don't need a competitor.
Yeah, well, this one's a little bit different beast.
I'm joking.
Did you see that item I shared in the showcase? That expansion interface that's on eBay, the one that's like completely trashed?
Yeah, they'd have to pay me to take that thing.
It's only $9.
Well, I'll sell just about anything I think I can sell on eBay, but even I've had expansion interfaces that look like that due to being badly packed in transit, and I wouldn't list that, but I suppose there might be a good circuit board under that veneer of crapulence.
Yeah, it's not just smashed. It looks like it's been sitting in muddy water for 20 years.
There's a small but growing number of eBay auctions of really, really shitful equipment coming up that it's almost tempting to buy it just to revel in how badly it's been kept. Like I've seen external floppy drives for the Coco and Model 1, which the whole cabinet, there's more of it is rust orange than white or silver. And I saw one the other day, I think I showed Pete, was the Model 2 disk expansion unit, which was not inexpensive when new, and it's basically a rusted out shell that someone's left it in the backyard or something by the look of it. It looked pretty bad, didn't it?
Yeah. There's a rust bucket.
Yeah. Well, people have to buy these things. People have to buy these things, otherwise people will not buy it. Will not continue to list them, and we won't be able to laugh at them.
It only takes a few years for something like that to change hands to the next person who doesn't know what it cost or what its value. Like I got a DVI for a Model 100. Pretty rare, pretty hard to find these days. It's somewhat rusty, and I guarantee the person who bought it would have never let it be rusty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you run into any kind of unique part or port connector or anything that seems hard to obtain? Seems like you've had pretty good luck.
Well, for a while there, it was the hardest thing in the world to find Model 2 high resolution boards, and then the dude from Georgia, I think it is, Robert?
Georgia, yeah.
What's his name?
Bob Payne.
Bob Payne, yeah. Turned out he has a whole warehouse full of them, and just about everything as well. not wanting to steer the conversation away from computers to furniture, but actually in the Z80 TRS-80 world, furniture is a big topic, and there's a mad scramble to find every bit of TRS-80 furniture. For some reason, there's a real collectability status when it comes to the Model 1 and 2 and system desks and so on. You know the ones I'm talking about, Pete?
Oh, I'd give a lot for a Model 2 desk, I'll be honest.
So that's what I mean, you know. Yeah.
And there's nothing special about it. You know the system desks, right? They're just two metal and...
It's mass-produced, low-quality, poorly designed, no, well-designed but poorly manufactured. It was sort of less than Walmart quality, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just particle board top and some bent tube metal, and that's about it. But hey.
Yeah. Maybe ask Bob Payne.Maybe he's looking at this stuff going, no one's going to want a 30-year-old computer desk.
Oh, I already asked him. He had one, but he sold it out.
Of course you've already asked him.
He had one, and he knew I wanted it, but he sold it. Son of a gun.
Did anyone see the feet? There's some feet for the Model 3 system desk on eBay last week.
Oh yeah, I did.
You bid on them?
Yeah, I didn't win though.
No? Okay. They go out of your price range, do they?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me try and find them. Yeah, what other bit of hardware is hard to find? See, it's all relative. It's what you're looking for. That's the it always happens to be the case that the thing that you're looking for the most is the thing that's the hardest to find, and then once there seems to be an inundation of them on eBay, suddenly appearing out of seemingly nowhere.
I was actually thinking more in terms of parts for like the boards that you build. Are there like any kind of unique connectors that you have to source to plug into these old systems?
Yeah, everything's difficult to find because nothing that I use anymore is readily available. I mean, yeah, actually some of it is, but if you want to pay high prices, which I don't.
Yeah, one of the things that's really kind of going, one of the things that's going kind of the way of the dinosaur is card edge connectors. Those when you find those for a good price, you have to buy a lot of them. They don't seem to really.
Yeah, I just buy the lot. The 40-pin ones are probably the most difficult ones to find. 50-pin and 34-pin, because they were used in floppy drives and SCSI, are reasonably readily findable, but the 40-pin ones that's used on the Model 1 buses can be difficult to find, and when I find them, I find in as many as I can find, so I can get my hands on. They go pretty quickly. But
yeah, and I'm continuously worried about certain submodules, like on the Mi's and Mi's, the Ethernet connection board. Well, who knows how much longer that'll be made? So I keep a pretty decent supply of those on hand. And then this little FPGA module that you really have to use basically obsolete software to even programming it. Who knows when that's going to go away? The IDE CF adapter, that's probably not a real popular thing anymore. So a lot of these submodules are getting harder and harder to find.
All right, guys.
you want to say something?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Going an hour and a half here, so I think we're going to wrap it up.
Anyone got a question? Try and stump Pete.
Yes, try to stump me.
I wouldn't mind just throwing out a quick comment if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm kind of new to your podcast, but I'm really enjoying it. The Coco Crew was the first podcast I listened to. I am a fellow Coco owner. But I really enjoy your show. I've heard your first few episodes. I heard the Coco Crew podcast, which was great, and I started listening to episode 8 today in preparation for tonight. So I just want to say great job, guys, because I really enjoy it. I never owned a black and white TRS-80, but I'm learning a lot and feeling like part of the family here. So I just wanted to say congratulations and great job, and I appreciate your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, same from me, Peter.
Thank you, Dusty.
How's the next newsletter coming along, Dusty?
I got a couple of nice little articles, but I'm expecting something spectacular again from you, Mav.
Oh, okay. I've been thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm sort of, what have I got? 14 days, basically. I haven't written one word since last time, so that's my usual way of operating. The just in time thing. But no, that'll be good. Have you got one about Tris Box?
I owe Dusty an article on that. Yeah, I have to get it to him.
Yeah, I think Peter's going to send
something about repair. Oh, good. I might do something about repairing and testing serial boards, just because I think that'll be the sort of the next thing that people realise their serial boards, the serial interface connection in their computer has not run, is not functional. It might have been dead for years, but if you never use it, it doesn't matter. And once they start setting up their Tris boxes, they'll need to have their serial board working, which fortunately it's fairly straightforward to diagnose and fix.
Can I just ask, has anybody heard anything about Matthew Reed's emulator being updated? I think there was one due, but I've not heard anything for ages.
I just use the version that whatever the current version is. Let me just check.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since he's actually done anything to it.
Yeah, I'm using 1.28 is the version I'm using, which I think is probably the latest one. What was the purpose of the next update? Okay.
Well, he was looking at the possibility of enhancing the Aculab option so that it would include the UK similar type of thing called a floppy tape, which I was quite looking forward to. But I've not heard anything from him for ages.
Have you got your Aculab running?
No, it runs, but because of the quality of the tapes, I assume, you can't seem to get any joy out of it.
So the tapes are worn, is that what you're saying?
The little wafers that came with it were infamous for not working after a while. They used to shed oxide like nothing. They were dreadful. The initial ones were very good, but they seemed to remanufacture everything, and then after that the whole thing just fell apart, which was a shame. Same with the Exotron, really.
Yeah. I've only ever had one of those run properly once, and promptly sold it. But I know that the tapes don't stand the test of time very well, unfortunately.
Yeah. It'd be nice if one of you hardware guys could make an SD card attachment for one of those. That would be great.
Okay.
Well, so
on the to-do list.
All right.
well, the topic of technical discussions or whatever, I'd just like to put a plug in. Coco Fest is coming up in 8 months, and we'd love to have some good technical talks from the monochrome TRS-80 folks to add to the technical content at Coco Fest. We hope to see some of the trash talk folks there, and then the audience of this podcast come and join us to make it a a somewhat broader event, and I'll be coordinating those tech talks. So you may hear from me again, begging and pleading for more content. So
just to give us some sort of idea, John, what have previous tech talks at the Cocoa Comps been discussing?
Well, the kind of the staple talks would be people talking about the latest projects or products, whatever they've worked on for that year. Beyond that, I did one several years ago on just how you would do just basic assembly language development for Cocoa. I also did one a couple of years ago talking about the 8-bit NTSC artifact color mode on the Cocoa 3. So I mean, you can cover a pretty wide range. I mean, we'd also welcome a talk something like RetroBrite or whatever. It's probably not a big topic for the gray case TRS-80 folks, but any kind of maintenance thing, how to make sure.
One of our machines, actually.
Yeah. So how to keep your floppy drive running, or talking about your floppy drive emulators, or just anything would be interesting. But we'd love to have that extra bit of content. So keep us in mind. And hope to see a bunch of you in Lombard, Illinois next April.
Right. Okay. Hey, I've got to stump the TRS-80 people question come through from John Benson. You want to hear it?
Yep.
Yeah. How would someone go about connecting a Tandy 1000 external 10 megabyte hard drive to a Model 4? There is a way. Pete C, you go first.
I know nothing about Tandy PCs, so I'm not qualified.
There's another piece to the Tandy 1000 itself. Is the hard drive, the internal hard drive.
Wait, is that the external hard drive that you could use that came with the Model 4? It's the small compact one?
Yeah, the small compact one. They at the end they sold them. They sold the drive on its own to be connectable to the 1000 or the Model 3 or 4. You got one there, have you?
Yeah.
Of course he has. I must say, you got a pretty well laid out workshop there.
He's gonna come back with like 2 or 3 in his hand. This one or this one?
Yeah, this one.
This one, right?
Just waiting for the video feed to catch up, Pete. I'll show it again.
If you make some noise, it'll video to you.
This one here.
Yeah, one of those. How do you hang one of those off a Model 4?
I just it works. I've connected it to a Model 4 before, and it works just fine. You have to have a controller box, matching controller box.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about, the controller box. Have you got one of those?
Oh yeah, I got the.
Are you kidding? Does he have one of those?
Yeah, that's the controller.
CC beta. What's it say on the label?
It's got the 50-pin connector.
Yeah.
And then it's got the MFM output for the other unit to plug into.
That's the one. Where did you get that?
I don't remember.
Okay, alright. Well, we managed to not stump the TRS-80 crew, so that's a pretty good start. That's exactly the one. It's a 261138, isn't it? Peter.
Oh. 2611.
Peter walked away. 1138. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. John Benson just got back to me and he's surprised there's 2 of those kits in the world. He's got one and you've got one.
Cool.
I think the history of that thing was Tandy was sick of selling 2 lines of hard drives. You know, the big steel box, 15, 35, and 70 meg hard drives, and a second type of hard drive for the Tandy 1000. So they produced just the Tandy 1000 10 megabyte hard drive, and then the adapter box to make it work on the Model 3 or 4, and sold that for a few years. But judging by the lack of numbers available to buy, I've only ever seen 1 or 2 on eBay in like 20 years of eBay. They didn't sell many of them at all.
Cool.
That's very rare.
It works great.
Well, that's a relief, because most of those 15 meg hard drives are chunk these days. Yeah. Hey, Dusty, what do you mainly use on your Model 1?
The quick interface with the thread.
Ah, okay, that's working well for you?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, and on the Model 3. Yeah, works fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, it's been really super talking to you and watching you. The first time I've sort of seen you and talked to you face to face. It's 3:30. I'm going back to bed. If I could just remind anybody who's sending an article in for TRS-8-bit, if you could get it to me by the end of the month, much appreciated. So it's good night from the UK.
No worries. Okay. Sounds like sunspots are starting to affect your transmission as well.
Right.
Right.
Cheers.
Bye, Dusty.
Cheers.
Good
All
night.
right, I think we're going to wrap up the show. Anyway, so I really apologize to those of you who couldn't get in or had technical problems. We'll work it out for the next show, I promise you. We'll get
When
there.
we revisit it in the future, we'll try and make it, at least as good as this one was.
Yeah.
That sounds.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, any
Everyone.
last questions before
Thanks, guys.
I go?
Thanks for putting this together.
Sure.
I hope everyone enjoyed it. It was sort of it's ebbed and flowed, but I think we've got a good number of people listening.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, people. See ya.